Welcome back to this week's video. Today we're going to be talking about the Premier League and what happened this past weekend. There was a few games that I wanted to really highlight and pinpoint. So starting from yesterday's matches, which was the 10th of May, 2025, we had a few games in the Premier League that were very interesting to look for because the top six race is very, very close. I mean, everybody is either 3 or about 4 to 5 points from one another, from second place all the way down to seventh, which is seventh being Nottingham Forest, sixth being Aston Villa, fifth being Chelsea, fourth being Manchester City, third being Newcastle, and second place being Arsenal. So starting with yesterday's games, Manchester City versus Southampton dropped points. It ended up being 0-0. It was quite an unremarkable game, to say the least. I think Ruben Dias had come out in a post-match interview saying that Southampton were not really playing. They were more just defending. We have to realize the position Southampton is in the first place. They're a team that is on the way to the championship. So really everything from now on is just about honor. It's just about making sure you keep your morale up and, playing against a team that has won multiple Premier League titles. You understand the threat that they pose. And so to play more cautiously and to play more defensively is the most intelligent thing to do. Now, does that mean that Manchester City did not have chances? No, I just don't think that they took the chances and executed when they should have. And so it results in them dropping very meaningful points because their next two are very simple games for City, right? City's next two fixtures outside of the FA Cup final, which they're playing against Crystal Palace, which is going to be on the 17th. So 6 days time from today. They'll have Bournemouth, which is a very tough opposition. Fulham, which is also a very tricky game for them. And that is their, Premier League season all done. So they really have realistically 6 points to capture in order to maintain themselves in the top six race. Do I think that they're going to finish in the top six? It's interesting because the other teams that they're fighting against, notably, would be here, Villa, which yesterday were able to come out on top against AFC Bournemouth with the 1-0 victory. Another game that was a little bit interesting. A good couple chances created from Watkins, from Asensio, from Ramsey, and Morgan Rogers. They end up finally getting the win. And so now it does create a bit of a nervousness for most top six teams because with that Villa win, it now creates only a 2-point gap to Manchester City, right? So now, looking at today's games, which were a little bit more interesting, a little bit more feisty, we see Newcastle beating Chelsea. Now, looking at this game, I watched it. It was a very early game. I think Newcastle just had the game plan to beat Chelsea. It's in St. James Park. It's a very awkward pitch to play at. It's a large pitch. It's kind of tilted. I'm sure many people have seen it on their YouTube shorts or their Instagram shorts or on Twitter. So it is an interesting place to play. But again, the lineups from Newcastle City came out with a very aggressive, forward-thinking kind of game plan. Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes, Jacob Murphy, Livramento, and Isak. With Chelsea playing with primarily, the same lineup we've seen in the past few games. Lavia had come in, Caicedo dropped right back, and Madueke had instead played on this left. So it was interesting, but there wasn't much that came from the Chelsea attack. Nicholas Jackson ended up getting a red card for elbowing Sven Botman. And so really from there, it was game over. Tonali had a quick goal at the 2nd minute. And then Bruno Guimaraes finishes off the game to move them to third place. So they're currently only 2 points from Arsenal. And this is going to be very interesting because next two games for Newcastle are going to be, they have Arsenal and then they have Everton. So Arsenal is the game that everyone is going to tune into. It's going to be May 18th. So this Saturday coming up, make sure to come out and watch this football game because it is going to be very, very, very feisty because this game basically guarantees someone is going to drop out, I think, because eventually Chelsea or Villa or even Nottingham Forest will come back in this race. So, everybody in this top six race is basically at their, at one another's mercy, because if one person drops out, the other person fills in their place. And so once they drop out, another team can leapfrog them, because now if Arsenal were to stay at 68 and let's say City were to win their next, they're at 68, right? And so if Chelsea were to win their next, they're at 66. So if they're only 2 points off Arsenal, and let's say Arsenal were to lose their next game, it's interesting for them, right? So now looking at the next match that was very interesting to look to, we have Liverpool and Arsenal. Now, I'll be honest with you. I didn't expect Arsenal to put up such a great fight, especially after that first half performance. I think Liverpool really did dominate the game. They cut them open. They got 2 goals from Gakpo and Luis Diaz. And, into the second half, it looked a little bit more like Arsenal were coming out to actually go for that win. And so they ended up coming back into the game at the 47th with Martinelli and then Merino at 70. But Merino ended up getting a red card at the 79th minute. And so it just kind of became a stale back and forth affair. Liverpool did have chances to go and kill the game. I think if Arsenal dropped a point today, that's 67. That's also really that would have been very bad. But managing to get a point against the champions is very impressive. And before the game even started, when the Guard of Honor was going on, you saw Lewis Kelly. He didn't even give them a clap. He's just there. Because really, I love that. It's football. Why would I clap for the team that has won the championship, right? If I'm about to go and play against them. The most amount of respect I'll give them is standing there and giving them that Guard of Honor. But anything outside that, I don't think I'm obligated to give you any sort of applause for what you've done. But next season, it's going to be very interesting to see how this Arsenal team actually ends up setting up. But it's going to be very interesting because Nottingham Forest also dropped points today to Leicester. So again, the bottom 3 teams are still putting up a fight against teams that are in the top 6. So now that we see the clip of the Nottingham Forest owner coming onto the pitch and actually speaking to Nuno Espirito Santos, and it looked like it was a pretty heated exchange. Now, he is Greek. Greek people can be very animated. They're very passionate people. And so this could just be something that he felt like they did drop the ball. They should have got the win here. They should have closed in on Villa, which would have given them another 2 points. So they would have been at 64. They would have actually slid into 5th, right behind Manchester City. But now with the drop points, they're only at 62, which is really not where they want to be. They're really having to catch up. So their next 2 are also very interesting, right? So Nottingham Forest's fixtures are now West Ham, which are also a very tough team, right? And then Chelsea, which are also a team that are in contention for the top 6. So it's very interesting to see how this final few games in the Premier League end up panning out. And I just wanted to highlight Chelsea's last few games as well. They will be playing Nottingham Forest. They will be playing Manchester United. And it's also interesting for them because they dropped points today, right, against Newcastle. And then they will have to play against Manchester United, which I believe we will beat them. And then they will probably lose to Nottingham Forest. And then lose to Anthony in the Europa Conference League final. But we will have to wait to see how that actually ends up panning out. But outside of that, I think this is going to be a very interesting end to the Premier League. I'm sure many of you have already noticed already. I am not talking about Manchester United or Tottenham. They both ended up losing 2-0 respectively. Manchester United lost 2-0 to West Ham. They just got beat. And Crystal Palace, yeah, they touched up Tottenham Hotspur. So, look, we're not even in the contention for top six, so I don't even care. These final few games, it's just for it's just for stamina. It's just to get your body and mind right for the Europa League final. But these types of losses, right, they're not looking too good, especially because both of the teams that are in the Europa League final are losing, pretty comfortably to Premier League opposition that are not even in the contention for European places. So it's a very interesting thing to see. But it is going to be a very interesting last few for the Premier League. But yeah, just keep a lookout for the next few games that I'll be looking forward to. I will be streaming the Chelsea match versus Manchester United on Friday, and I have left the link at the bottom of this video and future videos of my Twitch channel. Go check it out. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comment section below. Thank you very much for tuning in.